This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, it's David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series. So today we've got an episode that kind of spawns from a free document actually we wrote a little while ago, which is all about, the huge mistakes men make in online dating. And I think it's very important right now, especially, if you're reading this, we're probably still kind of locked down, depending on where you're in the world. Online dating has become the monster that is, the main way in which people engage with each other. I remember if we go back probably 12, 13 years ago when I first did online dating, and it was pretty weird. People thought it was strange. You'd meet women and they were like, my God, you're a pretty normal kind of guy. It was like quite a surprise. Whereas now it's become the absolute norm. If you say you don't online date, people are quite surprised.
People don't know. People don't know where you're dating. They're like, yeah. How are you dating?
Yeah, exactly. But what we see with the clients that we coach, especially, and even the women I know who are dating, they show me pictures, and I see men making the same horrendous mistakes again and again, not realizing that these mistakes are so obvious to any, compatible woman with what they want, that the women just see their profile and see how shitty it is and just completely pass them by. They just go, I'm not going to talk to this guy. So in this episode, we're going to go through some of the huge mistakes. You can download the full load. We're only going to go through a few of them, but you can download the full 8 huge mistakes. If you go to our website and you sign up to our newsletter, then you're automatically sent the full list in a PDF document for you to download and enjoy. And if your dating profile is something you'd really like some, targeted, personalized help with, then, contact us about our coaching. We did for one of our recent clients, we did a beautiful service where we took him out and we took him around some beautiful spots around kind of East London, and we photographed him. We got him a new set of online dating photos, which are stunning. Like, we took the photos and we know to take a photo. If you look at our Instagram profile, we know what to do with a camera. We both got years of experience of taking portraits and stuff, and like getting a feeling, because what you don't always realize, and we'll go through this a bit, is that photos elicit emotion from the people that view them. You might not realize it, because when you look at your own photos, you're like, oh, that's me. But actually people look at photos and go, that person looks strong. That person looks fun. These sorts of things. So, and if you're not adept at doing that, then, the part of our coaching would be to review your online dating profile, get that in order, look at how you're meeting women, how you're talking to them, how you're feeling about yourself when you're talking to them. And it's a very thorough coaching program that we offer. We take you through all the aspects of dating which are basically fucking you up.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the coaching as well, and it's really based on our years of experience around this. David and I both came up through the pickup scene when we started to really engage in trying to better our own social skills. And what we noticed was there was a lot of emphasis on the outer skills, and they are definitely important. Like, it's good to know logistically what to do. However, the one thing that gets overlooked so much is the emotional awareness and the inner workings of who we are, and that has such a profound impact on not just success with like getting dates or whatever, but like communication, conversations, your ability to be at ease and express yourself, and even to how do you say to flirt? Yeah, as I was thinking of the word, like to attract, to flirt, to let someone know that you're interested. Because so often people are like, how do I tell it? Actually, you're already telling it. It's just like it's when you let it emanate from you with ease and comfort and with sexual confidence. It's just like something you just do, right? It's not something that you have to battle map and to strategize and tick all the boxes in that way. So yeah, pop along via our email, and we'll set up a session where we'll take you through one of our processes and give you some coaching and spruce you up. And if you're interested, we like Dave said, we have a full 3-month package where we go through everything and transform your dating life. So this topic, I find online dating amazing because I came into a lot of online dating. I was there at the early days of Tinder before they started charging for that
Mm.
stuff. Yeah, it was a great time. Dave, you missed out on Tinder, but it was a great time.
Yeah, I was in a relationship, I remember.
Yeah, the heyday of
Um,
Tinder. Those were the golden years. The golden years of
um,
2014. Wow, what a summer! It's but things have changed now, like with a lot of these apps. But one thing that remains the same is that predominantly the one thing that people look at on apps is the visual aspect. It's the pictures,
mm,
and it's something that astounds us, and we get it because we do love photography. And the thing is that loads of guys use shitty photos, and like they're blurry or they're pixelated, or well, actually, just the quality. In fact, is just what we're focusing on at the moment. And the thing you have to realize is that with smartphones and where technology is at today, it's like having poor quality photos, or even um, you could have taken these photos on your smartphone, but maybe they weren't taken very well. The light was low. This actually gives it basically shows a very little amount of effort in regards to like your dating profile and your dating effort that you're actually putting into this, and that's what people pick up on. And also, and this for me is a big one, is that most people aren't photographers. So
mm,
they're taking photos thinking that, oh, these must be reasonably decent photos. This is or rather, not even these are reasonably decent. They're just going, this is a photo. This is what they're asking me for. So I take photo and I put photo on the app. But there is a huge, huge, huge difference between someone who's what do you want to call them? Actually, there must be a name for photographers nowadays that are just taking photos on their phone, right? A phone photographer, right? Like we're just calling them to someone who is a professional photographer and or a portrait photographer, and they know how to capture emotion and
mm,
light and humor, and
mm,
most people are not that, and so we're not saying that you have to become a professional photographer, but we're just pointing out here that actually we guarantee you that 90% of the time the biggest issue is that your photos are shitty. And if actually you spend some time with a professional photographer or a friend who's good at photography, you can enroll one of your friends or someone who's good at photography to come and take some photos of you if you don't want to spend money. You're going to have vastly superior photos to the rest of the men on these dating apps, because a lot of people are not paying attention to this.
yeah, yeah. Like I scroll through, um, I remember I'm going to talk about my own photos because I'm in an open relationship. My partner and I have a profile on one online app, and I just put some photos up on that app very quickly one day. I wasn't putting too much thought into it actually. I just chose some photos that I know that look nice and so forth, and I wrote a quick bio, and I kind of left the app to one side. I hadn't really put much thought to it. It's not something part of my relationship I'm engaging too heavily in, and I came back to it maybe a month later, and it was telling me that I had 28 matches waiting for me if I decided to bother swiping and stuff, right? And I put it down to is that my profile's pretty good. Some of the stuff we'll talk about later on, but actually my photos are really good quality photos. They really are nice, crisp photos that elicit an emotion of a varying array of emotions, because I know the emotion of photography. We understand how to do that. And I look at other men's profiles for the most part, and I'm just like, your photos just are so drab. They
Hmm.
lack quality. They lack thought. Um, and it's just as a woman, and I know this because I sit with women when they're swiping on dating apps, and they really look at a photo. Women really have an eye. Women are far more artistic than men are in general. So when they look at a photo of a man, they look through the 3 or 4 or 5 photos you have, where you shouldn't really have more than 4, if I'm honest with you guys. That's the first tip we're going to give you. And they're
That's a
looking
bonus
through,
tip.
yeah, they're looking through your photos, and they're looking at every detail. They're looking at what you're wearing. They're looking at your facial expression. They're looking at where you are. They're looking at all these finer details that when you look at your photos, you don't even see.
Mm-hmm.
It's the disadvantage you're putting yourself at, where you just kind of, oh look, here's a photo of me and Brian and some of the lads in the pub. Oh, that looks like me, and you just throw it on. And you haven't considered like, okay, is this a grainy photo? Is the lighting good for me? Is it good side lighting? Is it nicely above me, so it's going to give me a nice look on my face, going to show my eyes well? All these things you're not considering. And it's really what's doing your online profile a lot of harm.
Yeah.
That is the main thing I say.
And I would just throw in there as well, like, we're not saying here that women are looking at photos and going, oh gosh, this is not a professional photo, so I will not date this guy. But like David just pointed out there, is like, when you are using great photos, they can see clearly, right? They can see all these details that they're looking for and looking out for, and taking in. They're going to see that with ease. And just to add as well, like David just mentioned something called side lighting. And the thing is, it's like, a lot of people don't know about these like nuances of photography, right? And it's a sense of like how one actually creates emotion through photography by using light, by using this ambience or color on a simple background. We there's an Instagram that we follow. What's her name again? Just escapes me for a second. The photographer. Yeah, that one.
The photographer woman.
Yes.
Mm.
It'll come back to us later.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, she does some amazing photos with Saskia. That's it.
Yes.
Saskia Nelson. She does some amazing photos, like where a lot of her work is around capturing emotion of her clients, and that's just that's just the thing. Like, a lot of people just have no idea. Like, we think, oh, okay, if I smile or if I look like I'm laughing, that's going to do it. But that's not the subtle nuances that we pick up. And that's the thing about photos, is they just capture one moment of a living, moving, breathing creature. So you want to capture a good moment, So that's what So I think we've said a lot on that. We can move on. There is something else we'll say about photos and stories, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah. I think that's ultimately clear photos, smiling, clear photos. And if you're not sure, you should ping us a message actually on our Instagram. Send us some of your photos. We'll review them. You might even do it across the old stories, and we'll point out what's not good, what's good about them, because it really takes some time to review, and also spend some time looking at photography and going, okay, why do I like these photos? Why do I find them pleasing? Because you'll get an idea of what it is that there's what you find pleasing to your eye and why. So the next point we got here is actually about messaging. And I think this is probably one of my biggest bugbears with online dating, actually. And it's actually, we talked a little bit about this with Ben Bridwell. We did a live with him recently. Is she messaging? Like, when people are online, they're sending messages and they're going, "Hey, how are you?" And I see this a lot. And I will tell you, I don't think she'll mind. My partner, she runs her own coaching and stuff, and she gets random men sending her messages that just say, "Hey, how are you?" And literally 5 or 6 of them a day. Now, the truth is, if you're one of those guys that's doing that, why is she going to answer you? Why is she going to reply? This is on Instagram. So, why is she going to reply to your message of, "Hey, how are you?" when another 5 men who have said exactly the same thing? You're offering nothing interesting. You're not offering up any personality. You're not being very vulnerable in who you are. You're not trying to share. You're not trying to like go out on a limb and make an effort and read her profile, look at her photos, and really look at her pictures and discern, like, where is she in the world, or what is she doing? What does she love doing? What story comes to mind? What experience have you had that, has made you want to message her? You've just said, "Hey, how are you?" And it's okay if you start your message with that. It's a very nice thing. But if the next words after those are either missing or just, "How are you? How is your day going?" then really, sir, you're onto a really shitty message. And this conversation lacks energy, and it's not really going to go anywhere. And it's not going to really come to eventuality of you getting a date, getting a phone number, or a match.
Yeah,
further than that, sorry.
It reminds me of these sort of advertising phrases when people get inundated, or they with like an advert. You see on Facebook or something, you keep seeing a 5-minute abs or some sort of advert. Eventually, you just become like immune to it.
Yeah.
and you just don't even see it anymore. I don't know what the correct term is, but it's like that sense of like you just no longer even pick it up. It doesn't. Is it? There's a thing. It's the is it the reticular activated system, the RAS, the part of the brain that picks up on differences and new and things that are novel.
Mm.
And I have this experience myself a long time ago. I think back in like 2014 itself, when I was really hitting the dating apps hard. There was a book that I was reading about online dating, and one of the things it advised men do was actually to set up a female account and
Yeah.
take a picture of a woman who you find attractive, but she's not like a supermodel or something, right? Just someone that you find that you think would be someone you could actually meet on the street and is reasonably attractive, and you put that as a profile picture, right? Something you Google, right? I'm not saying you stalk someone and take their picture, but so this is what I did, right? And I shit you not, man. Like before I even completed the profile of, like you go through and you got to complete a profile. Before I even completed the profile, there were already two messages in my inbox. Like I didn't know
Wow.
that was even possible. I thought you had to complete the bloody thing before, but already people messaging me, and then literally, within a few days, there were 100 messages in the inbox. 100.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a flood, bruv, a tsunami of like of guys like
A Dixon army.
yeah, Dick tsunami, yeah, like who were just like messaging, right? And this is the thing, it's like if you're one of these guys who's saying, hey, how are you, or any other sort of like just general chit chat that other guys are doing, then you're just not going to show up, because this is
Mm.
what you're up against. Like you're up against like what was the ratio as well? I think it was something ridiculous, like two
I
thirds.
think I think I've read a little bit about this, and like on average dating apps, it's 2/3 men. But I hear on some of the more popular ones like Tinder, especially in certain areas of the world, it can be as much as like 5-1 men to women.
Wow. So yeah, like you're playing as part of a group that's largely outnumbering the women, and if you're going to say, hey, how are you, then you're just not going to show up. It's like women are seeing this as day in day out, like they're getting these messages. So it's really important to get creative, and they've made some suggestions, like and if you read our book, you'll see like one of the pro tips we got is actually, what can you see in the photo? Something as simple as that.
Mm.
Take it like we actually put in here, put your pro tip, put your investigator hat and take a proper look at the woman's profile, right? What can you see in a photo? Are there travel photos? Those are nice and easy ones to get stuck into. Maybe you have a curious question about where she's traveled, where the photo's taken. I like this one. Does that look like a festival? Like something you've seen, or even something so simple what we overlook is the emotion of what
Mm.
she's portraying on her face, or what's going on in the scene. And just these subtle little things would already put you miles apart from, hey, how are you, in a complete
Yeah.
different field. So yeah, it's such a key thing, and I think the thing that we're stressing here is that if you don't realize this already, you've got hundreds of men doing exactly the same thing, and so you're just not going to show up.
Yeah, yeah. And you might think that you're looking at us going, "Oh, why don't you just give us some lines?" And things you always say online dating. And I never use it. I don't use the same lines. My thinking, like my personal thinking, is I love to travel, so I'm always really interested in people's travel shots. And I often my thing is I look at their photo and I'm like, what does that make me feel? What do I feel about this place? Does it look beautiful? Does it remind me of somewhere that I've been? Does it remind me of a place I'd like to go to? Or what story can I create around seeing that photo, that how her day might have been, that for me is mildly amusing? Like, someone's on a beach, um, and it doesn't look like there's anyone there. It's like, oh, did you have to like trek across the jungle to get to that beach? Or if it's a beautiful landmark, then it's like, oh man, I've always wanted to go to X place. I've been thinking about going. I didn't get to. I wanted to go the other year, but I didn't. I went to this other place instead. Like, have you been? You're expanding the conversation, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's just like a regular London street, then it's like, what little details can you see that's amusing? Like I remember once seeing a girl's profile photos, and she was on this street and there's lots of coloured doors. And I just had this really irrelevant and silly story that I made up. And I was like, I wonder if everybody got the same painter to paint their different door colors.
Mm.
I was like, he must have had a nightmare, like getting all the different paint and then getting all the different brushes and then trying to do it all in one day. You're like, we think painting's easy, but if you had to do all these different doors on this colorful street, it would have been an absolute nightmare for him because it was just something comical to me in the moment. And it's just like being able to think in those kind of tangent ways about what you see. And the thing is I get what your feeling is. You don't want to make an effort and then not hear anything back. I see that a lot with men. It's like, I don't want to make an effort and then I feel stupid because I made a lot of effort in crafting a message for 5 minutes and not hearing back. But I tell you this, you would rather spend 20 minutes crafting every single message you send on online dating. And if one of those 20-minute messages comes through and you end up dating that girl and she becomes your wife, you will always look back at those 20 minutes and go, those were 20 minutes really fucking well spent. Instead of copying and pasting some message you got from some pickup artist on YouTube, 100 times, and you get the odd reply. It's not numbers. And also something you don't realize, guys, is women talk. So and lots of women who are friends might be on a dating platform. So if you send 20 different women the same message and 2 of them know each other, as soon as they clock on that you're the same guy, they will stop talking to you. And I know women do this. It's like, they're like, oh, there's this guy and he's just sending this message. Oh, he's one of those guys. Because, so just get thoughtful, think about the messaging, after the first message. Obviously there's a lot still to take in about who they are, what they do and all those sorts of things. But it's just like making the effort to think, actually engage your brain, engage your emotional brain, engage the part of your feeling that empathizes with someone, and also being able to explain what you're feeling. We've got a course coming up on the 2nd of December, the hidden power of your emotions. And in that, we're going to really talk about how you can learn to understand your emotions and feel them and describe them, because this is something that's perfect that you want to be doing inside of your messaging, because emotions connect us. And when women see there's an emotional conversation, there's emotional words, they're far more likely to respond to you and to connect with you.
Yeah. And one thing actually we haven't mentioned at this point is also the profile, right? Like is the bio and the messages that's written there. There's a lot of information that you can go off. Then you can do a lot better with just, hey, how are you? If there's no if there's no bio, then you've got the pictures. If you haven't got either, then I don't know why you're messaging that particular woman. If there's no pictures and no bio, then you're just hitting and hoping.
Swinging a miss.
Yeah. Just like a blank screen and a no bio. You're like, hey, how are you? Yeah, I know some of these guys listening, like, yeah, that's me. Just sending out those. It's like when you're playing snooker, you just go, yeah, any hole, just like smash the white ball and hope it hits something in. So yeah. So the next one that we want to talk about, because this again, we're going to go back to the visual, talk about story and telling a good story, and this is about your photos. David made a point earlier that it's good to have maximum like 4 to 5 photos. You don't want to have too many photos, but it's also important to know what those photos are saying. And this is one that we see time and again, the classic of a man standing. I've seen them where men are just like, right, here's a photo of me, and he's just standing in the middle of a road, and there's some parked cars. None of them are his. He's not like he's trying to make a point about the car. He just happens to be standing in a road, like, and literally the thinking is, oh yeah, I'll just take this photo, I'll use that. But what is that photo actually saying about you? And what you got to understand is that this is like a shop front, This is like, imagine you walk past Ralph Lauren or any of these other brands that are selling clothing, and they've just got some random picture of. Sometimes they do have random pictures, but they're always curated and they evoke a certain emotion. But you don't just have like a random picture of like someone sat at a dinner table with a fish on a plate. And, and they're like presenting it like, and there's no one else at the table, or just randomly at the gym, just casual, not even training, just at the gym. And the thing is, when you use pictures like this, what you're doing without realizing it is you are telling a story, and you're telling a story of a life that there isn't much going on. and maybe you have a lot going on, but the pictures that you've chosen for your shop front are telling a different story. We've actually got this in the actual book. It's like men choosing random photos of themselves eating dinner in the gym or holding a cat. Yeah, the cat one. The cat one's become it's a huge favorite, and I know people have
Cat
read
and
this.
dog.
Yeah, they've read this on some sort of dating thing. It's not even their bloody cat or their dog. They're just like taking the neighbor's cat or something and just holding it for the camera and for the dates. And the sad thing is you're missing a huge opportunity to say a lot about who you are.
Mm.
And so actually we've got 4 characters that we feel are essential for any man to portray. So one that I love is like the fun guy, like, so showing that you're out, that you have friends, like that you actually have friends, and that you're out and about. So like, for example, Dave and I went to a festival, it seemed like 8 years ago now. Was it
Mm.
2018? Seems like much longer ago, right? But that,
Yeah.
any photo from that festival, well, not any photo, but some choice select professional photos of socially acceptable behavior from that would be amazing to portray the fun guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Another one is the smart guy, like showcasing you looking at your best. I think this is one of your tips, Dave. I really like it. It was like, one of those ones where you're wearing a suit. Maybe you're at a wedding. Maybe it's a work related thing. If you wear a suit for work, but you're just giving women an impression of you, right? It's a shop front. She's getting to see what you look like when you actually put the full maximum effort.
Mm.
And now we're not suggesting that you stage this. Don't be coming with some crazy suit photos and you're staging this. No, this should just be something where you're out and you've been to some occasion, or like I said, you're wearing it your work look, and it's a smart look. It gives women something to go on. Another one is a sporty guy, and this one, ideally, I would say, is not just you in a gym, but perhaps engaging in some sport,
Yeah.
doing something active. Maybe you're hiking. I love hiking, or like climbing mountains. So that's definitely one that I would put in there. And we love travel. And the final one is a travel guide. I guess maybe this is a bit more nuanced. If you don't like traveling, then you're going to struggle in this one. But I think if you do love traveling, then you definitely have a picture showing you on an adventure somewhere, right, on holiday, showing that where. And as I say this, I must add, don't, for the love of God, put a picture of you stroking a tame cat in a cage or an elephant. You will get fucking beaten. Not by
Yes.
us,
Yes.
but by the masses. Like, so many guys, or even women, do this too, but it's very much I mean, you got to realize these animals are kept locked up, and it's not I've been safari a few times, and animals are born free, and they're much better in their natural habitat. They don't look so great when they're in a cage, just for your pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to there's a lot of kind of sentiment now around animals, around like elephants, so elephant sanctuaries and stuff like that. Like
Mm.
anywhere where you're allowed to ride an elephant is a big no-no. Really, you should really be, because elephants aren't meant to be ridden. If you're finding that you can go and stroke a tiger's back, because it's sedated or whatever like that, this is not the sort of photo you really want to be using. And I caveat that actually with, if that's the sort of woman you want to attract, then fair enough. But the chances are that you're listening to our podcast, and the people we find that
What
listen
is
to our
that?
podcast,
What is that sort of woman? Is
well, it's
it?
just someone who he would equally go and ride an elephant, and equally would not see anything wrong with riding a
Okay.
wild animal,
I thought
or be
you.
with a sedated wild animal.
I thought you were speaking specifically of that Catwoman, the one of on what's that show? Yeah,
Tiger King.
Tiger King. Yeah.
I've never watched Tiger King. I still
Yeah.
haven't watched it.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a woman. She's on there. She's all about the cats. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, and it's really looking at who you are as a person
Hmm.
and thinking, what am I about? Because the story you're going to tell with your photos, and coupled with your bio, is really going to have someone go, is this the sort of man I want to date? Is this the sort of man I want to spend time with? And I know from the women I talk to, women really love a man who's active in his body, who is, as Ahmad said, hiking, rock climbing, running, triathlons, whatever it may be. There are a lot of women that like that sort of man, but equally there's women out there that want a man who likes to watch TV and find beautiful restaurants and stuff like that. The key here is you putting who you are into photography. And if all you're doing is playing video games all day, the chances are then, if that's all you're doing with your time, and I doubt that's all you're doing with your time, because as men, we do stuff with ourselves. We do things we enjoy. We follow our pursuits and whatever it may be, is you just want to showcase that without shame. Don't feel ashamed if your pursuit is photography and you're like, oh, how do I get a photo of me taking photos? Well, you can actually, someone can take a photo of you with your camera taking a photo. I can think of a few that I've got myself from some of my photography expeditions, but it's like, show those things, because those are the things that make you really interesting, and use that to tell a story of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so key, and we didn't go through this. It's mentioned in this free ebook as well, but it's about sharing who you are, and sharing who you're what you're about, what you're up to, really telling people and sharing that, because otherwise you're going to lose out, and you're just going to attract the wrong type of person. And by sharing yourself openly, you're actually going to attract someone that's really going to be into you. And so often people think, oh well, I remember reading a book when I was really into the whole dating scene, and there was this guy saying, you probably shouldn't share that you're into chess and these things. And I really think like that's like the worst advice, because you're just going to attract someone that then doesn't know that about you, and then
Yeah.
you're going to go into your basement and play chess or like
Yeah.
or with figurines or whatever, and then you'll be like, well, you didn't mention this before. So
Mm-mm.
and if it's a huge passion of yours, then why hide it? Better you find someone that's into that, or at least acceptable of that and loves that about you, than someone who's going to find it weird or uncool.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we were on a podcast, I think it was Project Love, and we were talking about this. It's like actually showing who you are, because if you don't do that, and I've heard stories of guys, I've heard some horrendous stories of guys who have followed the advice of quote unquote dating experts and done their profile in a very particular way, certain photos and stuff, and then gone on dates, and then they just have to pretend that they're someone that they're not, and then they find themselves in even in relationships with women, still hiding these things about themselves, still hiding that they love playing chess, or that they're ranked in the top 50 of you know Call of Duty or something like that.
Mm-mm.
It's like, because, and then imagine what your life's like. I know I'm painting quite a pessimistic picture here, but it's really true. Like, imagine what your life is like being with a woman who you have to hide who you are from.
Mm-mm.
Just think about that for a second, because it's really not very enjoyable, because you're like, what are you doing? You're lying, you're skulking around, or you're not doing the things you really enjoy because you don't want her to know who you are. You're kind of waiting. Oh, eventually I'm going to tell her, just let me wait a few more weeks or a few more months. And then before you know it, it's a couple of years,
Mm.
and she doesn't know who you are. And you find yourself, I've met men who have been in marriages and been miserable because they've been hiding who they really are from their wives.
Mm.
To just really think about the beginning is like, who are you? What are you about? Are you about self-development? Are you about growth? Are you about learning? Do you love gardening or whatever it may be? But put that out there.
Mm.
If you just love going to festivals, then say you love going to festivals. But if you don't, then don't, because you
Mm.
will attract. Like attracts like.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, it's so key. We could talk about this forever, but yeah,
Mm.
this is exactly what we do. But we just break it up into different episodes, and you can find that you can find. But literally, we have covered a whole bunch of stuff. This is well, when this comes out, this will be what, number 76 or
Mm.
77. So yeah, we've run the gamut of different topics. It's really worth actually going, if this is the first podcast that you've heard, then definitely go back and check out our earlier stuff and listen to what we've discussed, because we really go in on this is a pinnacle point on what we discuss at Authentic Dating, is about being yourself, really
Yeah.
putting that forward. It seems odd. I know, David and I haven't always been this way. There were things in the past that we would hide from our partners or in general, but over time what we learned, it was actually like this was the easiest way to be, and I think we were very well suited to authenticity because we prefer to be free. We just, that value, that wanting desire to be free is what led us to go, do you know what, we may as well just be real, just be authentic. And then we realized that actually this is great. Like, this is so much easier, in fact. Not to say it's not, without problems or conflict, but it makes everything a lot easier when you actually can go, oh, I can just be me, and set boundaries around that, or open up, speak up about it, and not have to hide. It's you're making double the problems. If you've got conflict, which you're always going to have, you're going to have double if you're hiding stuff as well. So
yeah, I just remember when we were kind of a few months in, or 6 months into the podcast, like I was dating, still very actively dating then. And, I'd go on dates and I tell them, and I was like, yeah, I run a podcast about dating. And, it was very interesting to observe that, in the women I was dating. And sometimes women would be like, oh, that's cool. And I, after that, I wouldn't necessarily see them again, because I could tell that it was something that they found very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I also come to realize that if I don't tell them and they don't know who I am, then I'm just going to have this issue at some point when I have to say, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. If they don't accept it, it's going to be conflict, as Ahmad said. But when I'm upfront about it and I'm telling them in person, like, this is what I do, this is what it's about, this is what the core of it is to me, it was just important to me, because it's an important part of my life. So it's like, imagine if I can tell a woman on a date that I run a podcast about dating, I'm sure you can tell her, that you have certain interests, certain things you like, you enjoy. It's just really, the key is learning how to explain what you enjoy and why you enjoy it and what's inside, what joy do you glean from it, so that someone can connect with that feeling, that joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're back to emotional awareness again. So do come along to our emotional awareness course. A lot of these things will be covered there and more. All right. Yeah, I think that was a really cool episode.
A great one. So thanks for joining us, people, and we'll see you. We'll see you next week.
Ciao, ciao.